Good morning, everyone. How y'all doing? It is Saturday. Yes, day one has passed in Nebraska Con, and I'll give you guys more details about it later. But it was met its usual expectations. Everything was good, sold really well. The guy next to me, John, who does foreign expressions, he does those figures. He did very well. So I mean, the show always pretty much meets expectations. So everything was pretty good so far. But I'll get into more detail later. The whole thing was I got to get to the show pretty soon. It starts at 10, but it's 8 something. Got to pick up some snacks for the day and things like that. But to go into yesterday, I did not give you my Friday thoughts. So what I'm going to do is give you my Friday thoughts on Saturday. I figured let me cover another subject that maybe I know a little bit about, and then kind of like go into it as far as, a little bit more details. All right, so one of the things I wanted to bring up was indies. You know, everyone talks about indies and the independent film movement and all that kind of stuff. You know, independent has gotten used a lot, and the word has kind of been changed and manipulated over years. Independent, we were actually Media Blasters called an independent film distributor. That's how we would describe ourselves to publishers in Japan or anywhere, independent film distributor. What that means is you're just not in the system. You're not in the big, publishing system. You're not Paramount. You're not Warner Brothers. You're not Fox. You're independent. Now, the thing is back in the day, how did these independents, make their money? By the way, New Line Cinema was an independent in the day. How did they make their money? Well, back then, things were a bit easier, because it was obviously before the internet, before really even the TV market was mature, before cable, before all those kind of things. You pretty much had the theaters. And the theaters were owned by a whole bunch they weren't just owned now, it's all owned by AMC or Sony. Back then, you had chains of theaters and throughout the country. So a guy like anyone could make a movie and basically sell it to each chain and make money on it. Now that was, a big thing. In fact, there was a time in the day, especially in the adult industry, you could go to 42nd Street Pete's channel or other ones, where they would make custom movies just for that chain. So they would ask for, we need a murder mystery, we need a suspense, we need something, and the director would make it for them and they would just play it there. So that's kind of how, indies made their money, and they did pretty well. Now, here was the thing. If you look at in history, people will tell you one of the best investments ever was movies, because, like, take, for instance, Gone with the Wind, the number of formats that came out, the number of ways it got re-released. They did a calculation, and it was better than anything ever created in terms of the return on the investment. So what would happen is these guys who made the movies, the directors or whoever it was, they usually also retained the movies even after they did them. So what happened is they would sell them to all the ones, make their money. Then what happened was started the international market. So the international market, you would have film markets. These people would go to the film markets, basically sell their films internationally, and then make more money there. They would get advances. That's the way it worked. I'll go into another, Friday thoughts on advances and licensing. I get asked that all the time. So they would then sell it internationally, make their money there, sell it to India, Japan, Germany, whatever, and then get the prints and whatever. Then that would happen. Now, don't get me wrong, there was always corruption, meaning like even the theaters, they would not report all the revenues made off of the movie, because that's how the publisher would make, the director would make his money. The guys internationally would make too many prints and just throw them all over the place but overall, the director was making a good amount of money. The guy at that time, independent film, was still doing really well, and that's how they made their money. After that, then came cable and all the TV markets. Basically, there was no just national TV markets. Each area had its own, the area, the Midwest, or Ohio, or Cincinnati, or New York. You could sell it to just particular areas. And again, more money made on the same production, on the same film if you made something good. So then this became something people would invest in. So people would invest in the indie, put money into the indie to kind of like make more of them for them. That was just the way it was. But these were all shot, by the way. Usually they were shot on 35. It was not the easiest thing to do until lo and behold, the 16 millimeter, and you could go faster, you could shoot faster, things could happen faster, you could edit faster. Those, but the editing process was still the old fashioned, cut, splice, and you would put in opticals and stuff. But at least the guys still would be able to do this and make money. And so each one of those areas, the international market, in fact, back in the day, you would just make a movie poster and you would have enough money to make your movie, like a Friday the 13th or something like that. Those kind of movies were made because they made a poster, they had an idea, and they shot it and people paid for it. Those things is the way the movies were made for independence, because this was the thing, the studio system, or, they couldn't take chances. Back then, it was more along the lines of just that the studios, they just had to do the very straightforward. It couldn't be too bloody, it couldn't be too sexy, it couldn't be that. They had to play it by all these guidelines. So what happened was the studios would not be involved with them. So the indie had this whole open area to kind of make money on it. And produce more of what people wanted. Now, as time went on, cable came around, and then home video came. And home video, what happened is that with home video, that became the next way indies can pay for their film. You could do a DVD only release or a home VHS release. A lot of these guys would make, and again, they would make enough money so they could keep making movies and do whatever. And by the way, I want this defined as, right now people are going to say, oh, indie, the guy on the weekend just making movies in his basement or in his backyard is not independent. Okay, independent film is a guy who makes a living at doing that. Back then, you can make a living, probably pay for your family, pay for a lot, have employees and everything, and do that. That's what Media Blasters did, which we're talking about now, the home video. It was the home video market that allowed anime to become real. It really, without the home video market, the anime market would have never been able to get the attention it did. It wouldn't have been able to get the traction it did. It was only through stores like Suncoast and I could go on and on about people who made that happen in each industry. There was Michael Pascuzzi back in the day who got things into he's the one who got into Suncoast and did that. There was also for some reason his name I didn't work with him directly, but he worked at ADvision. Mike Bailiff, he actually is the one who got into Best Buy. He's the one who got them going with the anime section back in the day. These people made those things happen, and as that expanded, and also Mike did, I believe he also did with Tom, he did Walmart. So what happened was, as those things kept happening, that just expanded and just showed how much more there was to it. And then finally over time, then the channels like Toonami and all, they started to see that. But back in the day, Toonami and that, it was the Dragon Ball Z. That was Toonami. It was Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon or whatever damn show it was doing. It wasn't like a lot of stuff. So there was a room for people, and the way they made their money was through home video. So that was independent. Now with the internet, what happened was the home video went away, or death of DVD, or the slow death of DVD, collector's market and all that. Yes, that's happened and happening, and it will continue to happen. Now, is there enough funds or whatever to make it, to really do a lot with it? No, there's really not. You will make, you'll sell it, you'll have little guys like me and whatever, you'll be like 3 people, 4 people, you'll release a few and sell a couple thousand units here, a few thousand units there, that kind of thing. You'll try to do things that the other guys don't do. We do the adult stuff, other guys do the really old stuff, the esoteric stuff. It's all, that's the way you kind of like separate it, and you can make some money, but it isn't enough money to really do a lot. No, not like in the past. So the thing is now, where is the indie gonna get his money? How is the indie gonna continue to survive? Well, it was supposed to be the internet. It was supposed to be streaming. When we first started with streaming and Machine Girl and did all that, we got some really nice advances from Netflix, from those guys, Tokyo Gore, all those films did very well. Even the ones we produced, like Wicked Lake, those kind of things. I mean, when you talked about Rurouni Kenshin on Cartoon Network, well, that's not really streaming, sorry, but all these ones, that's where we thought, okay, there's a future here. You know, it takes out, because by the way, when you're dealing with hard goods in Walmart, you're dealing with returns, you're dealing with stuff. The sales of anime on DVD, by the way, were never really what they were, because once you got all the returns back and they were just flooding with inventory, they overbought. It's a crazy model. It was always a terrible one, but you made money. In the long run, you just had to move those units, especially at Walmart. You had to like deal with returns like crazy. So what happened was, internet looked like it was going to be it. Okay, some decent advances, we get some whatever, but as time went on, like a person I used to know used to say, you can't get, once it's free, it's hard to get anyone to pay for it anymore. And that's kind of what happened. Over time, the models just got worse and worse because they felt they had kind of this thing going and everyone was desperate. It went from advances to, pay per, per transaction or transactional. And then it went to, the SVOD subscription-based stuff. All these models, one after another, slowly but surely. All that was happening with each model was that in the end, the publisher, the content producer, making less and less. The indie was making less. Now, are the Japanese companies in Japan indies? No, they are. They do think worldwide. They do think that kind of thing, and they are producing. And if you talk to them, they will tell you bluntly, we produce just to make enough money for Japan. Everything outside Japan is extra usually. They sometimes will depend on some markets. Actually, now China is a bigger market for anime than America. America has long gone, been now ranked to number 2 or 3 or something, probably 2, and it doesn't make as much money. It's just the model just doesn't work. You cannot, the amount of content that's out there versus the amount of time in a day versus how much you have to keep producing for this type of, kind of binge watching, that kind of thing. The model doesn't work. And advertising, that's the way it works. We all just need to watch ads. It doesn't work. It still doesn't work. There's not enough people who want ads on this type of stuff to really make it worthwhile. So guess what? All these companies now are going to the AVOD model. It's ad revenue. And eventually, what we used to call ad revenue? TV. I used to watch TV. We watched ads. Yeah. So we went back to that, and there's really not a lot of money. So this is the thing. What I'm trying to tell you in this video is basically the death of DVD and the death of all these other ways to now reach this point. There's going to be a big upheaval. That's what's happening right now. You see it with Netflix. You see it with all these guys. Yes, the model works when you have something like Harry Potter, the new One Piece that supposedly is doing really well, all these kind of films. But when most of the other stuff, nah, you're going to lose all that independent type productions because there's just no money. All you're going to wind up with is the weekend warriors who make a film and then maybe they put it on YouTube. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. And then what happens is if they're lucky, some bigger publisher notices them, and then they'll be able to do it. So please, guys, don't tell me about Terrifier or somebody else who, one guy made a film and, it got popular. No.